Okay, so towards the end of the latest entry, we get an important moment that sets up a lot of things for the future. To set the scene, we join Rhaenyra and her father after the latter insists that she didn't sleep with Daemon. In episode 1, he of course told her about the dream that had been passed from king to king, and this prophesied the rise of the White Walkers. It also stated that a Targaryen had to be on the throne, and here we get more of the details on the dream and the importance of the blade. Now, we already know from the main series that this is used to kill the Night King, and I can imagine that the show will end with a major focus on it tying into Game of Thrones. In front of the Old Valyria city, Viserys brings up its previous owners, including Aenys and Aegon the Conqueror. I don't think it's Aenys, but that's how it looks written down. Now, Aegon was the first Targaryen king, and he ended up leaving Old Valyria, conquering 6 of the 7 kingdoms. Viserys' son is of course named after him, and the title sequence itself starts with an image of Old Valyria, which then fills with blood, leaving just his crown behind. Later on, Daemon brings the character up and how he had a second wife in an attempt to justify why it's okay for him to marry Rhaenyra. Now, as for the blade, we hear how Aegon had the pyromancers inscribe it. We've met pyromancers in the Game of Thrones series before, namely the character Holine, who created the wildfire that was used in the Battle of Blackwater. The inscription discusses the prince who was promised and how his song will be one of ice and fire. The Song of Ice and Fire ended up being the name of the franchise for the books, and Sam ended up writing this as well after Jon Snow killed Dany. Now, the blade also discusses the prince who was promised, which is a name that pops up constantly throughout Game of Thrones. The language of it does differ slightly, with the person being called the prince that was promised, the one who was promised, the warrior of life, and lastly the Lord of Light. Now, according to the prophecy, this Lightbringer was going to be the saviour of their religion. Now, an interesting detail is that in High Valyrian, the word for prince is actually gender neutral. Because of this, there was a lot of back and forth at the time over whether the prophecy was about Jon or Dany. Melisandre believed initially that it was Stannis, but after he was killed, she had a meltdown until Jon Snow came back to life. However, another Red Priestess in Volantis believed that it was Dany, and to make things more complicated, there are a lot of theories that actually believe the prophecy is closer to Arya's life. Now, the prophecy basically says that someone of a royal bloodline would be cast out and shunned, and they'd end up coming back and killing the Night King, which, hey, if the shoe fits. Now, whether the killing blow had to be delivered by them, or they could just be instrumental in the battle, remains to be seen, and both Jon and Dany were big fighters in it too. I've always just seen it as being Jon because I'm a raging sexist. I think Arya being it without us even knowing would also be a good little way to interpret the ending. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show, so let me know below. Love you for sitting through this part of the video. You take care of yourself. Peace.